Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. Before we get into our second segment of today's show, I do want to remind you, as always, that if you wish to interact and contribute to the show a little bit more directly while we are live streaming, consider making yourselves available to the Super Chat, Super Thanks, and Super Stickers features here on YouTube. They're a great way to offer your opinion on anything you see throughout the show that you would like to talk about, any input you have for me as well. It's greatly appreciated by not just me, but all the other shows that offer these options. You can also do it through our website, gsmcpodcast.net, if you feel so inclined. But without further ado, let's jump right into our second divisional round preview of the day. Switching over to the AFC, another game involving a 1 seed. The Houston Texans taking on the number 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs. And while I could necessarily justify the Commanders giving the Lions a game, it's going to take a little bit more of a Herculean effort for me to see the Texans making this a close one. Because I do think there's merit in thinking that this Houston defense is chomping at the bit to go up against this very underwhelming Chiefs O-line that has been penalized a lot this season, had to rotate a lot of players out, rookies, veterans, what have you. But I do think that we'll have to come down to C.J. Stroud on the offensive side of things, going up against one of the best postseason defensive coordinators of all time in Steve Spagnuolo and what he can bring on a big stage. So while there are aspects of the game where I think the Texans can hone in on winning those moments, there are too few of them for me to say that this Texans team can pull off an upset. But that win against the Chargers was enough to say this wasn't completely a wasted season, because not many people thought they would even get past LA at home nonetheless. And so getting to this point, and for me to say that there might be a small inkling of a reason why they can win, is pretty fascinating for a team we were saying were dead as soon as they entered the playoff race. We thought they're not going to go any further. This team does not look like it can compete this postseason, even against the Chargers team that, I really liked heading into the postseason, had a lot of momentum, but we really didn't see their flaws either. So going into this game against Kansas City, it's going to have to come down to their defensive play, because it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid, it's Steve Spagnuolo on the defense, and it's Arrowhead. You have to overcome all of that before even thinking about your game plan to win this game. That's who you're going up against. The standard thus far on the AFC side of the bracket. And I feel like, there were certain aspects of CJ Stroud's play in that wild card game that said that he would be able to compete against a team like the Chiefs, but it's going to have to be on a consistent basis. One way that the Chiefs can beat you is by winning the field position battle more consistently than you do. And I think that's going to play a big part in this game. Because if this Houston defense is keeping this team in this game, then the question will be asked about the offense and how they can stay in rhythm so that the defense doesn't have to completely carry them. Because that's what this Kansas City Chiefs offense can do. They can wear you down. And even though, yes, I've talked about the deficiencies along the offensive line and potential hurdles they would have to overcome in terms of going up against this elite Texans pass rush, I just think that because of Patrick Mahomes' special plays and his special moments that he has, the way he can escape the pocket and make plays out of structure, it's going to be even more difficult for Houston to consistently deliver in terms of stopping this offense. Maybe they stop them a couple more times than we think, and that keeps the Texans closer early in the game than we think, but it's not going to happen over a full 4 quarters in Arrowhead. And so that's why I have to say that CJ Stroud needs to be the X factor in this game for Houston. On the Kansas City side of things, one thing that a lot of people talk about in terms of the Chiefs consistently being the 1 seed is rest, and how it could both positively and negatively impact them. But think about this year for the Chiefs. Think about all the injuries they've had. Think about all the questions surrounding this team. much more so than last year. Think about everything we say to denounce this team, and they sit at 15-2, going into the postseason with the number 1 seed and home field advantage until the Super Bowl. So, think about that before you ever doubt this team. Because yes, rest could be a very dangerous thing in the NFL postseason. And if you're going up against a team highly motivated after a win where everyone doubted them, that's much more dangerous than you think. The Texans, yes, in the Deshaun Watson era, but still did take them to a 24-0 lead at Arrowhead before. So it's not entirely out of the question that a motivated Houston team, led by a very feisty defense that's rounding into its own at the right time, can stun this Chiefs offense early and prove that sometimes 1 seeds are rusty getting into the flow of things in their first playoff game. But the reason why I think that the Kansas City Chiefs are less susceptible to an upset than, say, Detroit, which I still think is another team that's probably not going to get upset this time around, is because of the fact that this rest probably helped them a lot more than people think. It gave them time to determine who's the starting 5 up front for their offensive line. It gave time for Hollywood Brown to recuperate, and thus he's going to be back for this one as well. It gave time for Isaiah Pacheco to rest as well, and he could be a huge part of this game. Very sort of ball control-like back. And thus, that's why I feel like, even though a lot of people are using that as a reason to try and justify this game being closer than it looks on paper, I can't really see Houston winning a lot of big moments. And so that's why in this matchup, even though the Chiefs, you can say, are the weaker of the 1 seeds in terms of how they've played all season long and how the Lions' offenses look compared to them, they're still the stronger 1 seed because it just seems momentum seems to find them at the right times. And right now, it's kind of ironic and telling that everyone's getting healthy at the right time for them. That Patrick Mahomes got that extra week of rest after, some injury problems we suffered late in the season. How this defense got an extra week to prepare for this postseason run. You can't give a Kansas City Chiefs team that knows nothing but winning this amount of time to round into form. And so, if I'm Houston, I'm thinking if we win the toss, and that's just a hypothetical because coin tosses aren't as important in this game, but if the Houston Texans win the toss, you want to go out on defense and say, let's go toe-to-toe. Best on best. Patrick Mahomes against our defensive front. And let's try and make a statement here. And see if that statement can be said again and again and again until we cause an upset. That's the mindset, because that's the only mindset I can think of in terms of justifying how the Texans can win this game. Because if, say, the Texans do win the toss, and that's what they decide to do, and they stop Patrick Mahomes on the first possession of the game in a raucous Arrowhead Stadium, that takes a little air out of the room. That shows Patrick Mahomes that, okay, Houston's not going to roll over and play dead for us. We have to take it to them as well. And then that's when this game starts to get competitive, and that's when potentially your offense can get rejuvenated a little bit. It can find its mojo as well. So I think that Houston, from the get-go, have to set the tone. And I'm not certain, if this whole coin toss thing will even work, because yes, that's what it is, a coin toss. And I don't necessarily want to put this game on the toss of a coin, but that's what it could come down to. Because Houston has to make decisions that force the Chiefs to think a little bit more than they have in previous playoff games. Because the Chiefs, yes, have faced every single situation. But That's the only thing I can really think of, psychologically speaking, that could potentially help the Texans. If you stop Patrick Mahomes on the first possession of the game, just give them something to think about. Just give them something that seeps into the back of their mind saying, oh, we're not just going to drive up and down the field with reckless abandon. We have to score as much as possible against this Houston defense, or else this offense could get going on us as well. And so that's what I'm trying to say here, in how Herculean of an effort it's going to take for Houston to upset the odds. I can see it happening, but knowing this Chiefs team and knowing how they can adjust any different time during a game, knowing how they've already probably viewed Texans film time and time again this past week and have a game plan that they feel really confident in, and all of those things, I do have to give flowers to what the Texans have accomplished in this postseason, despite all the negative energy surrounding them heading into this postseason. So, even though, when I look at these two matchups in both the NFC and AFC in terms of these one-seed games, I can kind of justify the Commanders winning a little bit more, or making it more competitive, say, than I can Houston against Kansas City, because Kansas City are perennial winners. And that doesn't even matter if they win going away or in a last-second field goal, because that's what we know them doing, them winning no matter what. And so that's why I have to take the Chiefs in this one. And again, this is a game I can't really predict in terms of score, because like I said, it doesn't really matter if the Chiefs win. It's just that they continue to do so. And the Texans are a team that, yes, have proven that this 10-7 season was not for naught, and that they upset the odds against Los Angeles, but big whoop, you're going up against Kansas City. And that's your reward. And so that's the kind of mindset I'm in about this game. So let me know what you think about this game in the comments below, because coming up next we transition into the world of basketball and into the weird world of the sweepstakes concerning Jimmy Butler and who could get him during this free agency cycle. We'll be right back after this short break to talk about it.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on